What if I told you that one of the most significant journeys in human history was unto voyage across an ocean or a march of conquest, but a secret escape through the desert? The year is 622 AD. In the bustling polytheistic city of Mecca, a small group of people are facing increasing persecution. Their leader, a man named Muhammad, preaches a radical new idea that there is only one God. This message, emphasizing monotheism and social justice, has shaken the foundations of Meccan society, whose power and wealth are deeply tied to the pagan shrines of the Kaaba. For over a decade, Muhammad and his followers, the early Muslims, have endured ridicule, boycotts, and violence. The powerful tribes of Mecca see this new faith not just as a religious challenge, but as a direct threat to their economic and social order. The situation has become unbearable. Staying in Mecca means certain destruction for this fledgling community. An escape is their only hope for survival. But where could they go? The answer came from a city about 200 miles north, an oasis settlement known as Yathrib. Delegations from Yathrib, a city plagued by its own internal tribal conflicts, had met with Muhammad and were impressed by his wisdom and leadership. They saw in him a potential arbiter who could unite their fractured society. They offered him and his followers protection and a new home. This was the lifeline they desperately needed. And so, the plan for the Hijra, or migration, was secretly set in motion. This wasn't a grand procession. It was a clandestine operation, carried out in small groups, under the cover of darkness. Families left behind their homes, their possessions, and everything they knew, slipping out of Mecca to begin the perilous trek across the barren Arabian desert. The journey was fraught with danger. The Meccan leaders, furious at being outmaneuvered, offered a huge bounty for Muhammad's capture. He and his closest companion, Abu Bakr, were the last to leave. They hid in a cave for 3 days, as search parties scoured the mountains around them. It was a moment of immense tension, where the future of this new faith hung by a thread. But they evaded their pursuers and eventually made their way north, finally arriving at the outskirts of Yathrib. Their arrival was met with jubilation. The people of Yathrib, who would come to be known as the Ansar, or the Helpers, welcomed the Meccan migrants, the Muhajirin, with open arms. They shared their homes, their food, and their livelihoods, creating an unprecedented bond of brotherhood between two disparate groups of people. This wasn't just a change of address. It was the birth of a community, the Ummah. The city of Yathrib would soon be renamed Medinat an-Nabi, the city of the Prophet, or simply Medina. Upon arriving in Medina, the Prophet Muhammad's first priority was to build a foundation for this new, diverse society. Medina was a melting pot of different groups, the Muhajirin from Mecca, the Ansar from the various tribes of Medina, and several large, well-established Jewish tribes. To prevent the kind of internal conflict that had plagued Yathrib for years, Muhammad established a revolutionary social contract. This document, known today as the Constitution of Medina, or the Charter of Medina, was a masterstroke of political genius. It was one of history's earliest written constitutions, and it laid out the rights and responsibilities of every citizen. The charter declared all the inhabitants of Medina, Muslims and Jews alike, to be one community, the Ummah. It guaranteed religious freedom, stating that the Jews had their religion and the Muslims had theirs. It established a system of mutual defense, requiring all parties to join together to defend the city against any external attack. It also created a system for administering justice and resolving disputes, with Muhammad serving as the final arbiter. This document was truly ahead of its time. It transformed a collection of disparate tribes and religious groups into a unified political entity, a state. It wasn't just a religious community anymore. It was a functioning city-state with a legal framework for peaceful coexistence and mutual protection. The Hijra had provided the space for Islam to be more than just a personal faith. It was now a blueprint for society. The significance of the Hijra cannot be overstated. It marks the pivotal turning point in the history of Islam. This migration from Mecca to Medina wasn't a retreat. It was a strategic relocation that allowed the faith to survive, organize, and flourish. In Mecca, the Muslims were a persecuted minority. In Medina, they became a self-governing community with the freedom to practice their religion openly and build a society based on its principles. The Hijra represents the transition from a period of patience and endurance to a period of action and community building. It was so foundational that when the time came to create an Islamic calendar, the early Muslims didn't choose the Prophet's birthday or the date of the first revelation. They chose the year of the Hijra. The Islamic calendar begins in 622 AD, with every year followed by the designation after Hijra. This decision underscores the event's central importance. It was the moment the abstract idea of a unified Muslim community became a tangible reality. The first mosque was built in Medina, becoming the spiritual, social, and political heart of the city. From this new base, the message of Islam would begin to spread. The establishment of the state in Medina gave the Muslims the organization and strength they needed to defend themselves against the continued hostility from Mecca, leading to a series of battles that would ultimately culminate in the peaceful conquest of Mecca years later. So, what can we learn from this 1400-year-old story? The Hijra is a powerful tale of faith, resilience, and strategic vision. It shows how a community, when faced with overwhelming adversity, can find strength in unity and create a new future for itself. It's a story about the transition from persecution to empowerment. The leadership of the Prophet Muhammad was key. He wasn't just a religious figure. He was a brilliant statesman, a diplomat, and a community builder. His ability to forge alliances, create the Constitution of Medina, and unite different groups under a common purpose was the catalyst for Islam's incredible growth. The role of the Ansar, the helpers of Medina, is also a profound lesson in compassion and solidarity. Their willingness to welcome and integrate a group of refugees into their society is a timeless example of generosity. They didn't just offer shelter, they created a new, extended family, breaking down old tribal allegiances in favor of a new identity based on faith and shared humanity. This bond between the Muhajirin and the Ansar became the bedrock of the first Islamic society. From this small city-state in the Arabian desert, an idea and a community grew into a global civilization that would go on to make incredible contributions to science, art, philosophy, and governance. It all started not with a battle, but with a journey, a migration born of desperation that became the foundation for a new world. The Hijra is proof that sometimes the most profound changes in history begin with the simple, courageous act of seeking a new home. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's most pivotal moments. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe to Historical Figures and Moments. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the past. And hey, are you a history buff who loves creating content? We're a volunteer-run channel looking for passionate people to help with research and writing. If you're interested in joining our team, check out the About page on our channel for more information. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.